for Common Cause, and he's my boss.
Good morning, everyone. I'm James Browning. I'm based in Pennsylvania, and I work with Common Cause's state chapters in the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest, and do a lot of work on the fracking issue with them. I'd like to start just by mentioning a couple of the findings in the report that we did for Ohio 2 years ago. And one piece of that was looking at the fracking debate in Congress. And for all of you who cover this issue, I think one of the really striking things is the fact that the natural gas industry had a big running head start before there were wells in the ground in a lot of the states where the fracking boom was happening. They knew this day would come when the technology would work and they could really go and get the gas. And what we tracked in our last study was $727 million spent lobbying Congress in 2001 to 2011, and $20 million in campaign contributions to members of Congress over that same period. And I think what's so important about that number, if you look at pivotal moments in the fracking debate, in 2005 there was the famous Halliburton loophole, which was part of the 2005 Energy Policy Act, and that's what got fracking exempted from EPA review under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And that's a big reason why so much of the fracking debate is happening at the state level now, because Congress, to a large degree, has not stepped in. They've said this should be a state matter. And so this is why the spending at the state level is so important, and why we feel so strongly that the public really should have a right. There should be to know how much is being spent around this issue. And I think a lot of people ask, is this a fair fight? Do we have all the information we need? I mean, we cite a poll in here which notes a real split in public opinion in Ohio. This was in 2012 about whether to go ahead full steam with fracking, to wait and study it more, or not do it at all. And it's an interesting split. But the results that we track coming out of the legislature, really show, for the most part, a series of victories by the industry. Now, what is the secret to their success? You'll note in the executive summary at the beginning, we looked at all of the expenditures reported by fracking lobbyists in Ohio for 2011-2012. That figure came to $43,000. We've done a number of these studies in Pennsylvania and looked at the same numbers for Pennsylvania for those 2 years and got $12.7 million. And as we discuss in the report, the big difference in those numbers is mostly due to requiring lobbyists to report how much money they're making from each of their clients. Oftentimes it is not a gift or a meal that gets access and influence. The real power around state capitals is having a 24/7 lobbying operation that is always at the ready to spring into action if it sees the slightest threat to its interest out there on the horizon. And that's something that's very hard for grassroots activists to compete with, people living with fracking in their communities who don't have the resources to have full-time lobbyists in the state capitol. This is such a complicated issue that for legislators to have fracking lobbyists come in, or let's say they get to go to an ALEC conference and talk about fracking, can feel it is incredibly helpful to suddenly have this wealth of expertise to draw on, and that is created with all of this money. And so this is our second report for Ohio, and I would want to stress, I've written 4 or 5 of these reports, and it's a really remarkable disparity between what's reported by fracking lobbyists, let's say in Pennsylvania, or here. And I'd like to talk about a few other features of Ohio's